Thanks, I just want to check the screen for the Wi-Fi.
But if you've got water restriction and okay, you can't demonstrate it,
Hör nicht zu, die Leute. Hör nicht zu.
Wir werden jetzt singen.
Muss einfach anfangen.
Stella, if you have another break between somewhere, this word of greeting, you can just pick up. Yeah. Might not happen tomorrow, but you get it. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming back. We'd just like to sing a song together and worship our Lord. I'd also like to welcome the guests who are sitting in the back. Synod is not a closed synod, so anybody from any congregation is welcome. And tomorrow we'll also have the partitioning wall open. So we also expect a few more guests coming tomorrow. Thank you very much for taking the time and joining us here, to those guests sitting in the back row. Thank you very much. And thank you to the music team for joining us. Thank you very much. Do we have another one? Let's have another song. Let's be alive. Okay, they haven't got one ready. Then we'll do it later. But one person that is ready with a word of greeting, Burkhard Brandt, he said I must put him in if I need a filler. But we also would just like to listen to you even if it's not to be as a filler. Thank you very much for coming from the dry and warm Namibia to this wet and cold Gauteng.
Yes, thank you. I think many of us don't need an introduction for Burkhard. He has been a pastor of Naoxa for many years. We got to know each other in 1978. And so we've walked a long road together. And I'm very glad that I can now welcome you. And yeah, now I can say I beat you to retirement.
Well, if I would stay in correct character, I would only beat him. Dear Mr. President of Synod, Mr. Springer, dear Bishop Müller, dear members of Synod, please accept the greetings and best wishes from your partner, Elson GLC in Namibia. For many foreigners, including a vast number of South Africans, Namibia is the prime tourist destination. And because it is true, over the years, the country responded. And it responded by developing a successful tourist industry, employing thousands of people, buying buses, double cabs, 4x4 vehicles on hire purchase for rentals. Buildings and B&Bs and lodges were revamped all the time. And then came COVID. This whole industry that depended on people coming from outside into our country, from one day to the next, collapsed. Of course, it was not the only industry, but it is perhaps the most dramatic one, because it was really from one day to the next. The ripple effect was immense. The vehicle dealers had to renegotiate payment plans or take back the vehicles which no one wanted to buy. Staff from the cleaner to the manager were retrenched largely without packages. The providers of food coming from South Africa with trucks full of fresh produce, and there was no one to actually buy it anymore. Farmers reliant on extra income had to sell. Some had to sell their farms or some of their farmland, because just prior to COVID, we had a 9-year drought. And in the first year of COVID, just before COVID started, we actually had good rains. And everyone was in a good mood, and things were very upbeat. And then came COVID. We have about 5 artists that carve these Makalani palm nuts, and they sit around the Christuskirche in the middle of town in Windhoek. They earn little at the best of times from tourists coming to our church, and all of a sudden, not one visitor, literally, from one day to the next. I will never forget their faces of disbelief at the end of a day when no one was there to even look at their art. Nothing. Really nothing. This experience has had a massive impact on our little church, and it still has. We had a high number of people passing away due to COVID. The first COVID wave, of course, was for the others. It didn't touch us who were German-speaking. And all of a sudden we realized, well, this COVID thing doesn't stop at language borders. People who had deaths in their family all of a sudden didn't want to bury because the attendance of family and friends was restricted so severely. And so funerals and memorial services happened, if they happened at all, 6 to 12 months later. And so we needed to ask ourselves, is this still a memorial service? Or what is actually happening here? And what has happened before? How did people in the meantime deal with their loss? How did they find closure if after 8, 9 months all of a sudden they would like to have some form of service? Weddings that had been cancelled in that time due to the pandemic fizzled out, and most of them will never happen. A fair number of people came to the conclusion that they needed a church no more, and they left. At least they now did so formally, whilst the distance to and absence from the church had been there for many years. COVID, as a way, became the catalyst for testing the relevance of the church in times of trouble, and it was found wanting by many. Another important change happened in the perception of our members. They realized that church could only be church if and when everyone participates. Now, unfortunately, they didn't all of a sudden all participate, but at least they realized that they should. And that in itself is an opportunity of note, which we are working with and working at presently. A third observation: members in my church are usually very self-centered, focused on their own church and language group, even very often at the exclusion of others, very much busy within. COVID helped us to look beyond. We became part of the bigger picture in our suffering, but also in detecting our wealth in terms of money, but especially expertise. Whilst many churches, smaller ones, went down under in this time, we were able to pay our staff every month in full. Our staff merely forfeited their bonus. And so we started to become diaconically active, feeding the hungry, assisting with projects to help people back onto their feet again. I've seen a surge of giving and caring and being in solidarity with the poorest. What a blessing this pandemic has become for us in terms of seeing and loving our neighbor. Or to stay within the topic of your synod, Jesus said, whoever finds their life will lose it, and whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. Dear friends, I also greet you on behalf of our mutual UALXA. There is really only one sentence of importance that I have to share with you. We have students again. That's the mantra. It's good to see two of them here and one of our interns as well. Let us be thankful indeed. What a blessing after a prolonged drought with regard to canvassing new students. 5 students are in training presently, 1 more undergraduate and 1 more postgraduate will join our fold next year. I believe that our painful decision to leave Pietermaritzburg and start afresh under new conditions has been pivotal in this turnaround. We presently have 2 interns in training, another one hopefully joining the 2 ladies next year. What a blessing as these young people prepare for service in our 3 churches and beyond. As UALXA Church Council, we are convinced that our students need only the best support and guidance that we can proffer. We are in the process of convening a synod at the end of November with 1 point on the agenda only: for synod to give us in Church Council the go-ahead to employ a full-time tutor to accompany these students on their journey. And also, and that's important, to contribute towards the theological learning community in Stellenbosch. At the moment, we are feeding on the backs of others. It's time that we share what we have. We have applied for assistance from EKD on this account, and here I need to change everything I've written down and say, and I know since an hour or so that they have actually said yes, they will support us. You've heard the applause. Please pass it on to all those people that worked with you in making sure that we can get this money. It makes it so much easier for our synod to actually decide on a rather large package for the students. Let me conclude. In this turnaround strategy, which was difficult, painful, fraught to this day with all kinds of disinformation and fake news, Horst Miller was for a long time the steady anchor in those storms. His input in these times cannot be underestimated. On behalf of UAXA, I would like to wish Horst a fruitful time of handing over his office to his successor. And from UAXA, we hope you will have a peaceful time of retirement. But when I say peaceful, I don't mean bored. And so in terms of not being bored, there's a little sign of appreciation, a small gift we from UAXA would like to give you. And the way I know you, it will keep you busy for a while. Thank you.
Burkhard, thank you very much for those very kind words. And talking about theological education, we have decided that the collection at the service on Sunday is actually for theological education, not that we're going to bring in that much to cover the expenses, but as a sign of how we regard the importance of theological education as the Synod. So please give freely. We're all waiting now for the bishop to show us what is going to keep him busy. Well, at least it's keeping him busy to open it. It says fragile as far as I can see, so please be careful.
Just give you a clue, don't fly too high.
Okay.
Oh, beautiful.
Thank you very much.
You can peep over the border and see what border's up to.
Just to keep an eye on everybody.
Okay. Just make sure it doesn't fly during the service on Sunday over the congregation. Martin, can you switch over to the other laptop for the church report? We are now going over to the church report, the church council report. All the reports are taken as read, so we're not going to go through the reports word by word, but we're just going to go through them page by page. If you got any comment or question, please raise your hand. We also have not got a roving microphone. As you can see, we got a microphone here in the front. We found that at the last synod that actually works better. So if anybody would like to say something, please just come to the microphone in the front. Ask if you can widen it a little bit, that it is. Okay, we'll just go page by page. Are there any questions on page number 1? Any comments, any questions? What I'd like to say right in the beginning, that we actually noticed that we omitted something very important, and it only came to our notice very recently. I just want to quickly jump to page 4 under Personalia. Well, it's under Personalia, it's 140. It's not under deaths, it's actually under moves and changes 160. 160. We as Church Council apologize. We did not state that the service of Dieter Trumpelmann at St. Peter's by the Lake came to an end in July at the end of July 2021. This will have to be minuted, that this is to be added, and it was a separation by mutual agreement, and we apologize that that is not stated here. Then we go back to page number 1. Any questions or comments on page number 1? We come to page number 2. Any questions or comments? Then I would like to go directly to line 53. Table discussion. How was church life resumed in your congregation after the ending of strict lockdown? We just heard what happened in Namibia, the difficult times and situation that your country and your church actually was in, and the experiences you had. Thank you for sharing that. We would now like to share that in our groups, and 10 minutes, is 10 minutes enough? We'll make it 10 minutes. We do not want written feedback or so. It is mainly for you to discuss in your groups. The bishop would like to say something.
Some of these table discussions, the idea, as Henning pointed out, is not that we hear what everybody has said, but the way the tables are compiled, you should all be from different places. And the intention is that we just hear from each other, learn from each other, and perhaps take something home where we say, I heard this at Synod, and I think this might work in our congregation. So that is the purpose, and that is also why we have our invited guests and our guests, as far as possible, attending the discussions, because we can all contribute, enjoy sharing.
The guests sitting in the back of the hall, you are welcome to join one of the tables and actually be part of the discussion. Please just move your chair to one of the tables, and yeah, it would be very nice that we also get the input from the guests who are sitting in the back.
Okay. Ja, genau das, ja. In Hermannsburg habe ich nicht so. Ja, ihr habt wenigstens auch die Synode gehabt schon. So.
Others to sit down, otherwise we have a mess of talk. And then we just make a list of speakers, and then we ask them to come. If it's up to 3 people, then they can queue here.
König geschlafen.
If you want to join any of the tables, you're welcome to now for discussion. It's really up to you. During this meeting. Yeah, maybe you want to just join. Heino, you're welcome to join any of the table discussions.
Okay.
Now, we're just going through the report, if you want to. Yeah, so you can sit down there, because we'll have these sessions of 10, 15 minutes all the time. So if you want to join a group, you can sit down there, or you can sit here. Yeah.
We've got our own problems. We're solving them.
Good, yes.
Can I, Henning?
Yes.
There are a few errors in this letter.
long as you don't change content, you can do it. Yes, you got that freedom. Yes, yes.
Na, wenn jetzt ich jetzt viel geschlafen. Ja, ich hätte das auch gesagt. Aber den krieg ich schon nicht so wieder angucken. Ich müsste beaufsprechen von der Ich denke, das ist eine gute Idee.
Are the 10 minutes too short for these questions? Okay, we'll possibly give a little bit more time on the next one. Just a question. If there is any group, as we said, we did not actually request feedback, but if any group feels that they have got something that is really unique and they would really like to share it with the other groups, we do give the opportunity to do that. So if any group feels there's something that really sort of is like a flash of light and it really opened their eyes, you are welcome to share it. Otherwise, like the bishop said earlier on, it's important that you take these ideas home, back into your circuits and back into your congregations. We then continue from line 56 onwards. Anything else on page number 2? We have got a little video on the actual run, the solidarity run that that happened, that is reported there in line 74 to 76. During the next break, I'll actually play that for those of you who have not seen it. It just shows you how many people took part, and it was actually quite a successful event. So we will play that later. Martin, just remind me to play it in. Anything on page 2? Yes, René. While we mention Nikki Van Holt, she's not here. She unfortunately couldn't join us. She was part of the preparation team, so a lot of the things that happened during preparation, she was involved. She's also the artist who actually designed both the pad, or not both, the pen and the mugs. So big thank you to her. And Friedeborg, may we ask you to please later on collect one of the mugs from Lisa Lotte, and please give her our thank you. Really appreciate everything she did. 2 mugs. Thanks very much. Thanks, René. Then if there's nothing else on page 2, we go to page number 3, and that is up to the bottom of the page. Here we talk a lot about what has happened, the 3 major crises that we had, the COVID-19, the unrest, and the floods, which really caused havoc over the last 2 years. And here we would like also to have a table discussion. What has your congregation done? Oops, there's something happening. Yeah, what has your congregation done? What positive impact can we as Christians and congregations have on our country? Be realistic. What can you really do? It is very important that we're realistic. We also got limitations. We can't just change the government or change, there are certain limitations we have. So let's be realistic in where we say this is something which we as a congregation or we as a church can do, which we can tackle as a project. And let's have a discussion. And we'll make it 15 minutes. And here, again, it's for discussion. But if some group has got something where they say this is really something that they want to do in their congregation, or they want other congregations to also do because it can be very effective, then we can share that idea. So 50 minutes, please get back into our groups. back. If there are other groups, you can just come forward and stand behind the microphone in a line. And yeah.
Thank you, Ed. I think that's very important. We spoke in our group about what each congregation did and then realized the important thing is that we should focus on what's going on in our community and as a church see what is the need that we can respond to. And then to answer to that, at Hermansburg School, we spent a lot of time finding resources to help mental health, social impact. So we have a lot of resources. And I think if we can network with one another, there is a lot of good material out there that we ourselves developed and that we've brought in as a school to help our scholars to deal with the trauma of these events, and they've been very helpful. So we can talk.
Thank you very much. Vernon, I see you coming forward.
There's somebody already.
Oh, there's somebody. Thank you. Sorry, the teddy and the microphone blocked you.
Yes, from this Abraham Bore from Group 1, we have come out with a proposal that we should start being beekeepers among ourselves or promote beekeeping within our church. I've gone for beekeeping training, and I've realized that it's one other form of generating passive income. As we're sitting there, we're proposing that if every household or farm could arrange plus minus 5 boxes per month, then we combine them, then we actually determine where the demand is, then we sell them, supply those on a monthly basis if possible. And we're also proposing that because we need to do it as a collective, we need to have a task team that's going to be coordinated. That task team, they'll have to undergo a training. It is just one day training for beekeeping so that they know the basics of beekeeping and determine the demand, the project, and all that. There are 3 benefits for this project. 1, the local church is going to benefit. 2, the stakeholders, the beekeepers that are going to going to work on it, they are going to benefit. The third one is that we are going to contribute toward biodiversity. The farmers need the bees for their product and that. And the other part that we came around is that we have realized that as a South Africa, we are very poor in terms of honey. We're importing honey from Zimbabwe, from Zambia, and from Botswana. And based on that, we realized that no, we can't do that when we've got honey in our country. We should work together and actually make sure that we attend to contribute towards reduction of unemployment. Not considering that there are also some honey, some bees that are exported overseas in one way or the other. But all that project, if that task team will actually coordinate well, will able to meet those 3 needs, as I said before. Generate income for the church, generate income for the local people that are employed, working that as passive income, and secure the bees that from extinction. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's something that can be taken up in the circuits as well, and you can then discuss those in your circuit councils as well and take this idea further. Vernon?
Our group spoke a lot about the social construct of our country, the whole degradation of the social construct, the criminality that happens, and whatever. And Lillian from Luxor shared with us what they did at the school to actually go to a school. Choose one school because you can't fix this whole thing. A congregation goes to a specific school and starts teaching the life skills project, obviously together with understanding of the school, to try and make some impact on that. And we thought that is quite a good way to start changing things, because you have to change it one by one. You can't change it all at once.
Thank you very much. And one more group.
Just one short comment. The whole concept of the church getting involved in the community instead of being in projects far away from your church, but especially the community itself, like what was said earlier, is we just thought about formalizing that in the church council and having a position specifically for social responsibility, if that's what you want to call it. But That position, especially in the church council, having the responsibility of building relationships with community forums, with schools, with municipality, with whatever, to see how the church can make a difference in your specific community, but formalizing it within the church council.
Thank you very much. The common theme that I'm hearing is involvement in the community, being involved, and that's really our theme. To be alive and to be seen to be alive, we have to be involved. We can't be alive and not being seen, and we can't be involved if we're not alive. So the common theme here is very much involvement in your community, around your congregations. I don't think it needs to be coordinated from church council. It can be done on a congregation level and on a circuit level. But involvement in the community seems to be a common theme. Thanks very much. We are now moving on to page number 4. Personalia, we have already mentioned one correction that needs to be made. Yes. Stephen.
I think it would not be fair and right for me to not to say anything. I must thank every congregation that donated towards the flood floods. Money that was collected was put to use, to good use. The devastation that happened in KZN was so much. I must thank you as a delegate, as a representative of the NGLC. From the bottom of my heart, I say thank you. Thank you so much. You are brothers. You are brothers and sisters in Christ. Again, I say thank you so much.
Thank you to all congregations. The response to the call was enormous, and we really thank everybody. And our bishop would also like to say something.
Yes, I think a lot of things happen, but now that you've raised the thanks, I think I also want to commend the New Germany congregation for being willing to take up the challenge. It was a tough time, and we were looking for who is willing to become involved and ready to become involved. I think the willingness was widespread, but that you got together a team so quickly, so that I think within 3 or 4 days after the flood struck, the first help started to flow. And I think that is also commendable. So thank you to NGLC for putting the team together.
Thank you for that contribution, Bishop. Page number 4. Any questions, comments, any omissions that you might have noticed? Page number 5. Page number 6. We also got a table discussion here. What challenges do congregations experience when they are without a pastor? How can other congregations assist? What is expected from church council? I think these vacancies can be very tough. Sometimes they are for a short period of time. Here at Northland, we were without a pastor for a year before Pastor Hunger joined us. And it was challenging. It was also a blessed time, but it was also very challenging. And I think we can all learn from each other. Some congregations will possibly be without a pastor for a longer period of time. So we need to see how we can support each other in this difficult time. And before we go into the table discussions.
Yes, I would just like to add one point here. Because as bishop, I'm involved when congregations become vacant. The most pressing statement made when the congregation becomes vacant is we don't want to have a long vacancy. We want to have a post filled as soon as possible. And I then always try to say, no, a vacancy can be healthy and good. And so in your table discussions, now if you look at that questions, what was your experience when you were vacant? And I think at every table you had that experience. Share with each other, was the vacancy terrible? What was the benefit of the vacancy? So that is part of this discussion now.
And we'll also have 15 minutes for the discussion. Please, let's go back into our table groups. Thank you very much. I see that the tables are very engaged in the discussion, and that's very nice to see. If we could please conclude. Can we please conclude the discussions and please get back into positions? Dean Yeckel, can your group also turn around, please? We did not ask for a written report on this section, but maybe the reporters can just put down if there's anything that's expected from Church Council. If you could just make a note of that and hand that into the minute keeper, Lieselotte. Is there any group that's got something where they say this, they definitely have to share, either because it's such a great idea or because it is such a great problem that they struggled with? We have got one here. Thank you very much.
Overwhelmed. Yeah, in a group, we thought of looking at this challenge as a benefit, in the sense that there was one member in our group that shared that during this time, when they didn't have a pastor.
If you could just move a little bit closer to the microphone, please. Just bend it down. Thanks.
Okay. When they didn't have a pastor, the neighboring retired pastors came in, and above that, the lay preachers, who normally are not always valued, at this time, they really did participate. And for us, we feel that there should be encouragement that people go into lay preaching, because it can be fulfilling for a person as an individual, and also benefiting the entire church. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's the experience we also made in our congregation, and that's very positive. So vacancy does not only need to be negative. Any other group? Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everybody. I would just like to say that with not having a pastor comes many challenges. However, not having a pastor also gives you the opportunity for extreme growth. And in our congregation, a lot of growth has taken place due to that fact. Right now, we have Pastor Martha Vats, to which we are very, very thankful for. And so, out of all of that, there's also some positiveness that comes out of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will then move on. We could go back. That we were in 252. That's page 6. Institution linked to NELCSA. Any comments, questions on page 6? We then move on to page 7. We have got the NELCSA events. And yes, I took part in the Brass Band Festival in UELC. It was a really amazing experience after the time of COVID. And thank you again to the congregation UELC for what they did. And also I had very positive feedbacks from other festivals that took place in the last couple of months. We sometimes are concerned if congregations really appreciate these festivals. So we also like to have a table discussion. Church Council is concerned that sometimes church and church festivals are ignored or hardly supported. Is this a lack of communication? Is it not regarded as important, or do we not see ourselves as part of NALCSA, or do we see ourselves as part of NALCSA? And how can such festivals strengthen the awareness of the wider church? We'd like to have a group discussion on this, and here I would like a short feedback from each group, but we will give you only 10 minutes on this discussion, otherwise we run out of time. So 10 minutes, and if you can give a short feedback, thank you. Thank you very much. I did ask for feedback from the groups. Not every group needs to give feedback, and if you find that other groups have already stated something you wanted to state, then you don't need to repeat it. I'd just like to ask, is there any group that would like to start? Edmund, thank you very much.
In our group, we came to the conclusion that it's actually not an issue. Those who want to attend can attend, and it's a blessing. But likewise, those who don't attend shouldn't feel obligated to attend, and that's why we in the congregations have a service on that Sunday, because we come from different traditions. As much as we've opened up, it used to be, if we're quite frank and honest with us, a brass band festival was, or a song festival was, a specific culture, if you like. As much as we've opened it up, and that's great and it's good, but we shouldn't be disappointed. We think as it is, it works. Each congregation gets to host a circuit song or brass band festival. It goes around, or a church festival, and it's good. We do recognize that there are other church events like Rustwoche or Kailage, which is also a church event, where people come together and it satisfies a need. So we actually think we shouldn't be dissatisfied. We should say it's a blessing.
Thank you very much.
Those of you that are clapping now, stop. I saw a lot of shaking of heads when you were speaking, Ed. I was one of them. I don't completely disagree with what you just said. I think our group discussed that it should be intentional that we have these festivals, and that we should work towards having more of them. And I think it's great that we can disagree. We know each other. So we all agreed in our group that it's really important. But we also recognize that it comes with challenges, but that we need to be intentional about it, and that it's good for our church to build family. Family members that sit in different rooms every day and don't communicate aren't family. And we need to learn to communicate. And it's going to be challenging, but we should do it.
Thank you, Renee.
Good afternoon. Our group discussed about the financial circumstances that causes the problem and the distance that needs to be traveled. And the other thing is life is very expensive and people are busy and they don't even relate to these activities like brass band and choirs. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that feedback. You're welcome to come forward and stand in the queue. That just saves a little bit of time. Yeah, you first. Or just queue up behind the microphone. I think that's fine.
Yeah, in our group, we believe that it is the way these festivals are promoted that is not attracting the people. Also, the marketing is very poor. Like my colleague has just said, the financial situation for each individual is also different. And also, other individuals have different priorities as opposed to church priorities. And also, what is also lacking, we look at the sense of belonging. People do not feel that sense of belonging to the congregation. They feel that sense of, I am part of the church, but I do not belong to the church. Some festivals, activities do not relate to me, so why do I have to go there? We believe that in our group we should work into that and get more people attracted to these festivals. And also for the younger generation, there seems to be no value for them in this festival. It's the duty of the congregation and the church itself to make sure that the younger generation see value in these festivals. That is our group.
Thank you. I think it's also important that the younger people also do their own things in festivals. We had, at one stage, we had the Yugos here in this central circuit where the different youth groups got together. Those things are also important to have these type of festival and joint events. Thank you.
Okay. Our group felt that maybe the communication between congregations and council should be strengthened concerning dates, because everybody's life is so busy with schools and just life as such. So we felt that it might help if we strengthen that. And then the type of festivals always attract different type of audiences. But what we've noticed is that if it's, for instance, a brass band festival, then the brass band members come, but not many of the congregations. The members of congregations surrounding that area come and attend. So we were thinking, the question could be, should we leave out the circuit brass band and choir every year and concentrate on bigger events where everybody gets together? It's a question we have. Should one not concentrate on that? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just like to remind the reporters to please just give a short note to Lieselotte on what you are saying, that we can just pass that on and discuss it further in church council. Bless you.
Yes, so our group had a nice exchange, and yeah, there were a few points raised, but one of the things we said was that there's competition between the events. So in one place there's this event, and then in another bigger NALSA event, there's that taking place. And yeah, then as said before, marketing and communication, we said the communication is sometimes poor because it goes to the pastor and then it isn't passed on very efficiently. Well, not to say, but yes, to some. Okay. No offense.
It doesn't apply to all the pastors.
Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, and then our conclusion was actually more or less that we should support the church as a whole and not maybe, yeah, like it was said earlier, not to focus too much on the, the circuit events. Maybe support the church and, yeah, not to focus on the congregation too much.
Thank you very much.
In our group, we got stuck on the choir festival. We all felt it's an opportunity to develop interaction between congregations. We had Mark Rover in our team, so he's an expert on that. What we felt, or what he felt, is one should accommodate variable cultures or choir proficiencies and levels of competency of the different choirs. Small choirs with less technical expertise and capabilities to enjoy the festivals. Is that right? Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. Connie?
I'll just concentrate on the things that weren't said yet. Live streaming seems to be a very good thing. So I think we must do that in the future of the circuit festivals as well as the main festivals. I think that would definitely go down well. We found in our area, I'm just talking now, I didn't discuss it with the group as such, within our circuit there are people who cannot sing because they have no choirs, or they can't play because there is no brass band. And in circuit festivals, those people can actually travel and attend those festivals or the practices that go and work towards the circuit festival. So if we cut down or leave the circuit festivals away, we're actually closing the door on them. Those ones that really want to sing, and because there are only 1 or 2 in the congregation, they can't have a choir or can't have a brass band. So I think we must have a look at that. Maybe we can actually reduce the frequency of them. One would have to discuss about the cycle, how one would do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think one thing we learned in COVID is this live streaming. I know of some congregations who have not got their own service on Sunday. They're actually live streaming the service that we have here in their congregation. as a service. So we have really learned something out of the COVID times and the technology that is available.
I just have one point here that I have, others have been repeated, that maybe within congregations we need to then ask a question, what do these festivals mean to us? That is starting point, then we realize maybe other things like they bring a sense of belonging. There's a bigger group than ourselves in the corner. So maybe this is a conversation that we need to take back to the congregation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
My wife tells me we've got an invite to a wedding. Can we go? So I say, did they send a menu? I've never done that. Either I want to go to the wedding because we know the bridal couple or the family, or we say, no, it's just a polite invitation, so we won't be going. I think the mistake that we make when we speak about these festivals is, first of all, I want to disagree. It's not a cultural thing. You get church-wide festivals in every culture. You get it young and old. So it's not a thing of old traditions. Secondly, it has to do with the fact, what do we celebrate? Do we celebrate that we are church? Or do we celebrate that we can play brass instruments or sing in a choir? Now, what I'm sharing now is based on my 13 years as bishop. I think I was in basically every congregation. So I regarded Nelksa as my family. And I found it always very sad when I come to a member of my family and speak about our family gathering, and that member said, no, we're not coming. To me, it's regardless whether it's choir or whatever, but the fact that we are gathering as a family. And the challenge that I believe is that we should ask the question, what do we celebrate? And if we agree we want to celebrate the fact that we are a church, then we must ask how to best do it, so that it's not misunderstood as for those people who can sing, or for those people who like this or that, or for the old Germans or whatever. And with regards to this topic, I want to take this as my closing comment to you. I experienced a family for 13 years, and I wish for the day that we experience a family gathering on a large scale. And everybody says, I'm here because I'm part of Nelksa.
Yes. Thank you.
I just had an idea. I'm sorry that I'm still going to carry on after what you've said, but I mean, I'm in agreement. But since we heard that the buck often stops with the pastors and they don't pass on the invitations, we'll up our game. But I want to challenge the congregation members as well. And we've often found when we attend such events that when you tell someone, I'm going, are you coming along with me? Then it really helps, because they know someone else is going and they've got transport, they can just come along. So you as congregation members, when you go to such festivals and you have 1 or 2 or 3 spaces in your car left, talk to the congregation members, the other members of the congregation, and advertise to them that you are going, and say, I've got space in my car, please come along with me, and we can enjoy the festival together.
Thank you. We now come to page 8, And I see we got an update from Microsoft as well. Maybe that's why the Wi-Fi was so slow early on. 10 seconds.
On page 8, the question of the English creed. It is stated as a question that it would be a proposal to Nelsa, to you, Elsa. And I wanted to ask, we used the creed in the service this afternoon. Can we not propose from the Synod that we take this forward to you, Elsa, as a proposal, that we use that wording?
Thank you. As far as I know, it is actually a decision by Church Council, actually a decision by Synod a few years ago to actually take it up. Okay, then let's have a vote on that. Is there a seconder, firstly? Yes, we have got seconders. René Rich, thank you very much. We also decided we're going to use that wording on Sunday. So it is a decision that we have made for the Synod. Those in favor of the creed that we use today, and yeah, we took the hell out of the creed. That's the one thing that we took out, or that was taken out, not we, but it was already proposed a few years ago. Rainer, did you have your hand up? Is anybody not sure on the wording of the issue on the creed? Okay, we've got Mark. Horst, can you briefly just maybe put it up and say a few words to this? Quite a few years ago, this actually came up at Synod. It was discussed at Synod, but somehow the process was not followed fully to actually adopt it. Maybe we just show the service for today. Yeah, there we are. Can you say some words to it, Horst, on the process that happened before?
It is often something is not right with my voice. Can I quickly steal this one? Over the years since 1965, when UELCSA was established, there's an agreement between the churches of UELCSA, and currently it's NELCSA, ELCSA Cape, and Namibia GELC, that we work together on matters of liturgy. At that stage, the English liturgy and Afrikaans liturgy and German liturgies were revised, looked at. Since then, that wording was very much Old English, and various questions were raised as to the discrepancy between our current official English creed and other creeds. In NELCSA we use German and Afrikaans, so differences between the German and Afrikaans versions and the English version. And as a result, then I did a survey amongst the UELCSA congregations that work in English, asking which version do they use. Because the answer, let us just use the common English version, is not useful because there is no common English version. That must be stated. And so we got together all the suggestions and all the variations that are being used. And at the Pastors' Convention of NALCSA, then honed in and said which version is as close to the original as possible. So it's not only to the German and Afrikaans, but to the original as possible, and in line with the other languages that we use in our church in NALCSA. And that is the version that you see there. And as Henning pointed out, we took the hell out because the word hell in the original language, Hades, doesn't refer to the place with burning fires, but to the place of the dead, the realm of the dead. So it isn't a softening of hell that is happening here, but it is a correction, because what people think when they think hell, yeah, I don't need to explain. And so these changes were done. Also the resurrection of the body versus the resurrection of the dead. I think that's in the last portion. Again, the original, the intention is not that the flesh, and that's the old English translation, that the flesh will rise, but that the dead will rise. And all of you who have done confirmation teaching or remember that confirmation class will remember the question raised by confirmants: what happens if someone gets burned in a car accident? Do they get raised as the burned person or as a healthy person? And then the next question: what happens if a baby dies? Does it live for eternity as a baby? So the resurrection of the dead makes it clear it is about the dead being raised, not how they look when they're being raised. And these are just some examples. I can speak for hours on this matter now. But basically then to ask how confusing is our English version. This now specifically refers to the English version. And is there a better way of dealing with it? Udo's hand is up.
Yes, Udo?
It's for the live streaming, it's important.
I would just like to suggest this wording hasn't been sent out to the Synod delegates to look at, to apply their minds to, and to consider. I would stick with what it actually says here, that we, NALCSA will request UALCSA Synod to finalize the updated version. It's got a question mark here. I think we can state, yes, we would like to do that. But then the UALCSA setup must finalize the wording, and ultimately we then vote on that wording that's sent to us so that we can apply our minds to it.
Thank you very much, Udo.
Thank you, Udo. You are correct. And that brings back my introduction, where I said that we've got this agreement that we want to work together as the UALCSA churches. So that would then be the request that we formally request UALCSA to guide, take a position. Now, I must also emphasize that UALCSA then can't decide on behalf of the churches. UALCSA makes a recommendation, and the member churches then adopt it.
Thank you very much, both Udo and Horst.
I'd just like to make sure that I understand correctly that as NALCSA we would bring this creed to the table. That is what we're using mostly.
Sorry, can I also just...
Okay, Victor, we now got a hot potato. But No, but it's important to discuss this.
It
Yes.
is, and maybe I didn't express myself correctly. My proposal was that we make a firm proposal to you, ELXA. That was what I wanted to say, because it's really been going a long time now, and there's always this to and fro in the congregations. We've had to change the English version of the creed quite a few times in the congregation, and it causes disturbance, and that's why I just really appeal that if we can come to a point where you ELXA can make that decision, and that is why I wanted to really plead that we can do that, bring it to you ELXA, and just have agreement on Synod, not on the wording, but on the fact that we bring it to you ELXA and that you ELXA makes a decision.
My proposal would be in line with what Victor says. In the church report, it says, an ELXA will request to ELXA Synod to finalize the updated version of the English Creed for member churches, ? We as Synod need to confirm that we actually want to take this to ELXA for them to finalize. And I think we should vote on that. Do we agree? Then the proposal here is, can Church Council, ELXA Church Council, take the to your ELXA Synod? We got one red. I don't see any blue, and the majority is green. Thank you very much. Any questions on page 8? If we could go back, Martin, to the report. Please come. If you've got something to say, please come directly to the microphone. You do not need to wait for me to, or for any of Synod Council to acknowledge you. Just come forward.
Thank you. I wonder whether line 368 is actually meant to state you ELXA if the whole paragraph concerns the name change from ELXA NT to NELXA because of the confusion with ELXA by a number of institutions. So I wonder whether it's actually you ELXA instead of ELXA.
That should actually be ELXA. I think that's a typo.
Yeah, sometimes things don't get stated clearly. In our ELXA, represented by the presiding bishop, Kosinati Miyaka, has got interactions with NELXA and interactions with UELXA. And in our interactions, we realized that from ELXA's side, it's not always clear whether they are talking to NELXA or to UELXA.
Okay.
And the matters are then confused. So it might not have been stated that clearly, but that confusion is there. So sometimes ELXA talks to NELXA, sometimes ELXA talks to UELXA, but it's not always clear who actually is intended to be the talking partner.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Anything else on page 8? Anything on page 9? I'm going to skip the table discussion. In the interest of time, we might get back to it, but I don't promise it. But at this stage, I'm going to skip that. Any questions on page 9? Any questions on page 10 or comments? Any? Anything on page 11? I also suggest that we skip or postpone this table discussion for the moment. Yeah, the Bishop would like to say something?
Yes, I know that we are pressed for time, but I just want to emphasize this joint declaration is one of the most important documents since the Augsburg Confession. This is not just a little document. It's a document that can change the history of the church. And that's why in the report, and you will also see in my own reflection as bishop, I put a lot of emphasis on this. For 500 years, the churches have been divided. Our church has one of its founding documents, the Augsburg Confession, which was formulated in the Reformation time, and where also the walls were put up to say, and we reject, and part of that rejection, without naming the Roman Catholic Church and without naming the Reformed traditions, but are the implied ones that are rejected. And after 500 years, and it started off with the Lutherans and the Roman Catholics, came together and said, can we find a way of saying we agree on the most fundamental aspect, and that's how we are justified, how we are saved, to put this, how we get out of hell, to use that term. And if I say it's one of the most important documents in 500 years, the ripple effect is slowly growing. Since 1999, it's all in the report, the Anglicans, Methodists, Reformed World Alliance have joined to sign that document. But now if you take note, the Roman Catholics and the Lutherans, which up to that stage had officially in their confessions condemnations of each other, saying, we condemn you, you go to hell, basically, have come to a point where they don't say, okay, let's forget about this, but to say, do we both believe that Jesus Christ is the Savior who sets us free by grace and grace alone? And that statement says, yes, we agree. And this starts the road for new discussions, to reach out as brothers and sisters, not as enemies. And so I respect the fact that we're running out of time, but
in view of what has been said, I've changed my mind. It's not the first time that the bishop changes my mind. We will have a 10-minute discussion on this topic. We will not ask for feedback, but I think we're going to have the discussion for 10 minutes.
And be honest at the table, say I didn't have time to read this, and if you did read it, if you did look into it, share with each other. And the highlight in the last years is the 2019 statement that is then linked to in the document, where these churches then have this statement, as far as possible we are going to work together. And where we can't, we agree to disagree. But we won't work as enemies. So, thank you.
Thank you. 10 minutes. Please get in your groups and discuss this question. Share what you know about the JDDY, that's the Joint Declaration on the Doctrine of Justification. What cooperation is possible in your region with other churches that signed, the Roman Catholic Church, Methodist, Anglican, Reformed family, which includes Presbyterian, Congregational, and Dutch Reformed.
weiß niemand das nicht. Ja. Ja. Is time up?
Thank you very much. Let's get back into the mode where we all face forward. Horst, möchtest du das Image mal erklären, was du mir gesagt hast, das Bild? Our bishop very often captures very complicated and difficult things in pictures. And I was amazed just now when I spoke to him, he came up with a picture, and we're going to miss this, Horst, where he actually said, this whole thing can be explained by a picture. And maybe you can just explain that picture to all of us.
Yeah, this joint declaration is like a DNA test. I always have been battling with this neighbor of mine and various neighbors and really fighting and battling. And then suddenly a DNA test shows it's my brother. And that's what the JDDJ shows, how we in Christ are brothers and sisters.
Thank you for that imagery. It's actually quite fitting. Anything else on page 11? Yes, Stephen. As I said, just come to the microphone if you got anything.
I'm not going to be long. It's just a question, something that is in my mind. I just want to share something. 2 weeks ago, I went to a graduation party, and then it was a Catholic mass. And then when it was time for the communion, the priest, they called our pastor's priest, told us straight that if you're not a Catholic, don't bother coming here. We're not going to share the communion with you. And my question now is directed to the bishop. They are talking about one Savior. Yes, we agree we have one Savior, but at the same time, they're still discriminating against us. We can't share in the body of Christ and the blood of Christ.
Thank you, Stephen, for asking that question. You will see in the document it states specifically that these are things that we still need to work on. And the I always forget 2019 or 20 document. 2019 document lists specifically that is our next challenge. And I can just say that in South Africa, we have regular meetings of these churches, and we 2 years ago started to talk exactly about this point. And it's not only the Roman Catholic, unfortunately. We know the deep hurt in the Lutheran family, where we have similar experiences. But it is specifically mentioned in the document as one of the next challenges that we need to discuss. And again, in my reflection as bishop, you will see that I then stated how at such a meeting, I realized there's only one table of the Lord.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Horst, for that contribution. Anything else on page 11? We then come to page 12. Any comments, questions? Page 12. We have had the words of greetings from the EKD and from ELM, and again, thank you very much for that cooperation. Mark Roche, thank you again for being brothers and sisters with the EKD in our church. Thank you very much. Anything on page 13? Horst would like to say something? Sorry? Yes, I actually want to skip both the table discussions that are still coming because there's still a couple of announcements to be made. If we finish early with the law, we can always come back to one or two of the discussions that we've skipped. Is there anything else on page 13? Yes, Abraham.
Possibly in the previous Synod.
Volume, please, Martin.
Previously, I hope in the previous Synod meeting there was a discussion on the issue of the lay pastor. It was said it's going to be referred to a task team that is going to work on it and actually give a feedback possibly today. Is there maybe a feedback on the issue of a lay pastor?
There will be a feedback when we talk about the laws because it was one of the issues that came up in the pre-meeting on the laws. So we will get back. Thank you very much for that contribution. So we're going to skip those two table discussions for the moment. Anything on the conclusion or words of thanks? We will have some words of thanks tomorrow evening, so we don't want to go into too much detail there now. I just got a couple of announcements to make. Firstly, thank you very much for being very diligent with your electricity use. Eskom has noticed, and they said due to lower weekend demand, load shedding will be suspended at midnight on Friday. So thank you for not all charging your laptops at the same time. We will, however, still have load shedding at 8 o'clock tonight. We will switch over to the generator before the next session, but you might suddenly find that the lights all go off for a short period of time. Don't get a fright. We just need to switch over to the generator. Unfortunately, we also got a bit of a problem in Gauteng, and we've just got a water notice. In short, a combination of high water consumption due to the heat wave and load shedding, which creates an inability to keep reservoirs full, has resulted in rainwater throttling water pressure back to 30% by 10 o'clock tonight. So please don't be alarmed if you're not in a position to bath or shower tonight or tomorrow morning. But we are really having a problem. You might have noticed it is very, very dry in Gauteng. Then I'd like Wilco to please escort our bishop out and just take him somewhere where he is not in a position to listen to us. Udo, sorry. We don't need to adopt the Church Council report. It is not part of our constitution to actually adopt the report. There were no further questions to the pages. It is no longer a requirement, like in the olden days, that actually is not there anymore. We can accept it. It has got no legal significance. Sorry, Elke, I can't hear you. We can do that for sake of formality, but it has got no legal point. Yeah. If Synod would like to do that, I'm happy to accept that. But as I say, it's got no legal significance. But if you want to, you can show with your green cards acceptance, and by your red card, no acceptance, or the blue card abstention. There's another blue card here. There's another blue card. Have you counted? Thank you very much. There's 11 blues, which are most probably all the circuit council, the church council members. Thank you very much. As we all know, our bishop is ending his term. He served for 13 years. We are very thankful for the 13 years, and especially that he still accepted to add another year after the 12 years. It would have been very sad to actually have had or impractical to have a bishop election during the time of COVID. So I'm glad that Synod and also Horst Müller, Bishop Horst Müller, accepted to extend the election by a year. We as Synod would like to give Horst and his wife Edna a present. The suggestion we have is and you can see he is tired and he's been sick. What we have as a suggestion is a travel gift voucher for bush, beach or berg getaway presented to Horst Müller to the value of 10,000 Rand. That would be approximately 100 Rand per person. And so if you can give a bit more, that would be nice. If you cannot give 100 Rand, don't feel bad. It is not an obligation. And Yolanda, she will do the collection. If you haven't got cash, you can also pledge and do an EFT at a later stage. Just let Yolanda know. And we would like to hand this to him in the service on Sunday. I hope you're all in agreement to that. It is spot on 6:30. Maybe we can get Wilco and the bishop back in, and then we can sing grace, and then we'll have dinner. Yes, we like just all the people who are involved in the devotion tonight, that is all the people of the preparation team, if they could just come forward after we say grace, before they go to dinner. Do we know where the bishop and Wilco went? Are they coming? Okay, great. Thank you. Who would like to start with a song for prayer for dinner? Any suggestions?
Thank you, Lord, for giving us food.
Thank you. Let's stand up, and René, will you also start it? Okay, Victor, can I ask you? Enjoy the food, and the devotion team, please come forward.
Stella, kannst du mal hier auf die Fotos nochmal drücken?
Gerne,
Was? Stella drückt sie nicht kaputt. Wollen wir das tun? Nicht nach hinten gehen jetzt. Passen wir so alle drauf? Ich ziehe auch im Bauch ein.
Ja, Bauch rein.
Markus Garrer sind nämlich gerade in Santiago in Chile. Ach so. Dann fahre ich immer aus die Nase lang, dass man hier schon ein bisschen
While we're busy, we might as well.
Besseres Foto.
Okay. Okay. Let's enjoy the food. We'll join you for dinner now.
Good. Thank you, Edith.